Over the years, we've seen artists release projects full of throwaways or records that just didn't make their albums but were good enough to eventually see a release. And while these albums are rarely released for a plethora of different reasons that we can speculate about, we receive them nonetheless. And today I'd like to take a look at a few of these different projects, old and new, and determine what makes them so special. Sure, there's a million albums I can cover that never saw the light of day, such as the Kendrick and Cole collaboration album, Juice WRLD's The Party Never Ends, or even albums such as Detox, Yandi, but let's take a look into the few that were released. Starting off as fresh as possible, the first album I'd like to cover is Atta Vista, or better yet, 31520, the original version of Childish Gambino's latest project that was released on May 13th, 2024. Atta Vista is an 11-song album with a runtime of 50 minutes and 15 seconds, and maintains multiple changes from the unfinished predecessor released on March 22nd, 2020. 31520 is interesting. Gambino spoke on the development of this album shortly after its release by sharing a 2-page journal entry as a preface and look into why he made it. They won't wait forever. It's clear that Gambino was weighed down by his lack of output of music over the past few years before this project was released and after its release while he explored other creative avenues. Some glaring differences at a first look between the completed and incomplete versions of this album are: Atta Vista has every song titled uniquely, whereas 31520 has the songs listed as timestamps for the song and where they fell on the album's pre-release stream leading up to it dropping. The other glaring difference is the fact that 31520 contained 12 songs within the covers, while Atta Vista only holds 11. Feels Like Summer, which I consider one of the best tracks off the original album, is gone, and it's unfortunate. Atta Vista is the more polished record, as it's actually finished, but nonetheless, it would have been fun to hear this song get a completed version out. But I can't get 315 out of my mind. It's raw, it's experimental, it's different. It was a surprise release with this strange rollout, and it's a seamless listening experience. 31520 is less commercial. While Atta Vista is still good, the revisions made and polishing of it take the soul away from 315 in a way that's sad. 31520 felt like a reflection of Childish Gambino's mind, whereas Atta Vista feels like just another album where he explored a little bit instead of keeping it as a masterpiece. Now, let's visit a chamber of reflection and take a look at Mac DeMarco, who, on April 21st, 2023, decided to release 199 songs at once in his One Wayne G album. This is one of the most creative and wonderfully done things I've ever seen from an artist. Every musician will have songs that don't see a release, that will always sit on their hard drives begging to be finished, but never getting the love needed to bring them together. One Wayne G is Mac DeMarco's way of just mag dumping his vault and giving fans all the songs he never got around to finishing, with some being more complete than others. He speaks wonderfully of this project, and on Emma Chamberlain's podcast, he shares what his goal behind it was.
For me, it was like I wanted to collect scrounge everything up.
Yes.
And put it out so I can walk past it.
Every song on this project is named with the date code of the day each song was recorded, with some of the more complete tracks receiving a title along with the date code. One might think that he just got lazy and didn't feel like coming up with unique names for 199 songs, but it's deeper than that. Mac did it this way to pay homage to a hero of his, Ryuichi Sakamoto, who is a Japanese composer and pianist who unfortunately passed away last year, so Mac paying tribute in this way was a subtle yet beautiful way to tip his hat.
It's like a date code. That actually came from this guy, Ryuichi Sakamoto. He recently passed away. One of the great, I think, advanced music in a crazy way. Great musician, real hero of mine. He put an album out called 12, I think at the turn of this year, maybe or late last year. I can't remember exactly when it came out, but it was just 12 songs and the date that he recorded them on, which I was like, well. And I kind of started, I had done that date coding thing for my recordings already, but doing it in the exact way he did, it's kind of like a little,
a nod.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, he was incredible.
Emma asked a great question to Mac on this pod as well, asking if he keeps in mind while writing songs about how they're going to be formed, and in the past he did keep it in mind. But that's a handicap, as it can stop you from creating something beautiful due to hypothetical limitations. There's beauty in music that's unperformable. Mac then goes into how it feels creating music when you have tons of unfinished songs sitting in your files. Sometimes you can't get the same energy or feeling to go into it when trying to finish a project at a later date.
Drives you crazy because then I try and record them again and it doesn't ever feel the same way as the original version. And, but they're good songs and I want people to hear them.
And that's how art goes, as you can even see artists like John Bellion struggle with situations like this while creating music.
Should've never went home. Should've never went home. So annoying.
There should always be times where the art comes before the money and numbers, which is rare in today's music industry. The third album I'd like to talk about today is none other than Kendrick Lamar's 2016 record, Untitled, Unmastered. Untitled is an 8-song compilation album of unused demos from To Pimp a Butterfly. These tracks were never meant to see the light of day. However, Kendrick performed these live a couple of times and they saw a release in a raw and wonderful way. Each song is called Untitled, followed by the track number along with the date that they were recorded. Throughout this entire project, you can drown in the swelling music, haunting instrumentals, and Kendrick's writing is at its peak form here. Kenny winning a Pulitzer Prize is glaringly obvious when you see him release what's hailed as the greatest album of all time by many in To Pimp a Butterfly, and then go on to release an unfinished album of throwaways, and it's another masterpiece. This project being throwaways from a complete body of work gives it a more cohesive theme than expected. While the album opens up uncomfortably,
push it back on, daddy.
Quickly we're transported into Kendrick unloading. Track 1 sees Kendrick exploring his Christianity through chaos. In track 2, he dives into his confliction of dealing with stardom while being from Compton. Track 3 sees Kendrick speaking a give and take dynamic that he was holding close to his chest. Genius puts it great. Several minorities give Kendrick a piece of themselves, advising on how to live his life better. However, the white man takes a piece in order to capitalize off of him. This track was created the day before his performance on Stephen Colbert because he didn't want to perform his song I. Track 4 is Kendrick monologuing much about the same issues that he deals with back on track 2. Pulitzer Kenny goes into the institutionalization of minorities with power dynamics and inequalities in track 5. Track 6 is a letter to you, a letter to accepting yourself and using what makes you different as a means to build something special instead of trying to shy away from your own uniqueness. On the second to last track of the record, you go through the 3 stages of emotion. This track is incredible and no description will do it justice. The final track, Untitled 08, September 6, 2014, is Kendrick sharing his distaste for institutional racism and the struggles the black community in America face as a result. At the beginning of this video, I asked the question, what makes an unfinished album so special? It's clear to me after diving headfirst into 3 projects by 3 artists with 3 different perspectives that there's plenty of reasons. But one overarching theme shines above. Art comes in many forms, and unfinished albums are ways of seeing deeper meaning in their music. With everything being so money-driven and not doing numbers, being able to change the way the mass audience feels about a musician, just because what they put out might not be as popular as something somebody else put out, makes it increasingly hard for these musicians to put a piece of themselves into their music. These unfinished albums, though, are as close as we can get to being in the studio with them, hearing the creativity flow through every facet of them, and more importantly than everything else, they're as real as we can get. Deadlines and hype riding off the back of a musician staying as active as possible can force a musician into a corner. Instead of taking the time into creating a masterpiece, they'll just put out another generic album that may not be anything special at all, but at least it keeps their name on the top of your mind. An unfinished album is a glimpse into the mind and soul of a musician, and I think that's what makes them so special.